Hey everyone, welcome to Moving Matt. We do all things cameras with a dash of vlogs and a little bit of travel. And today is the big day. It is June 29th and there is no announcement of the Canon EOS R3. So that rumor turned out to be untrue. So instead of bringing incredible news today, we do have some pretty interesting news coming out of DPreviews, where they did an interview with one of Canon's executives where they give some insights about Canon's future and also give a lot more information about an up and coming R1. So even though this is not the announcement video that I hoped it would be for the EOS R3, I hope you stick around and let's get into it. So the first big bit of information that we get is the reason why the R3 is not going to get the R1 designation, essentially because they want the specs of the R1 or the R1X, I'm guessing it's still just going to be the R1, to basically surpass it. And they're saying they're still working towards that type of technology. And by them saying that and the way they phrased it, to me it seems like the Canon EOS R1 is quite a distance away. And we actually heard a rumor back, I think it was a couple weeks ago, when Canon Rumors said that the R1 wasn't going to be coming until the end of 2022, maybe even early 2023. And at the time I was extremely shocked by that, and I honestly didn't really believe it. But after hearing this interview, I believe it could be that long, or it could be much longer. Another thing they said later on in the interview is that 8K resolution is going to be very important moving forward, and a lot of their focus is going to go towards 8K. And they said that with 8K, essentially you could take a still image out of that and have a megapixel count on it that's still as much as most cameras on the market today. So obviously I think with them talking about 8K as being so important for the future, then the R1 will definitely have 8K. Now, I kind of have a conspiracy theory here, and I've mentioned it a couple times before, but I feel like this interview kind of starts to paint a picture that this may actually be true. I think that the Canon EOS R3 might have actually been the R1, or initially was going to be the R1 at some point in time, until they became privy of what Sony's doing with the Alpha 1 and what Nikon plans to do with the Z9. A couple of things that's made me think that is the design of the R3, and also the specs of the R3 really look like they would go head to head with whatever an A9 III would be, and I think that's what they were anticipating. They didn't think that Sony was going to go up to 8K right away. They didn't think that Sony was going to enter that $6,500 price range. History had said that Sony would be following up the A9 II, and they'd never had a high megapixel sensor on any of their high-end sports cameras until the Alpha 1 was released. So I think what happened is Canon came out with the R5, and they wanted to be the first one to reach 8K, and that was a really big marketing ploy for them. And if you look back, the first leaks about the R5 and the first bit of the development announcement, it wasn't focusing in on the photo capabilities, it was completely going in on the 8K features. I think even though they put it into the R5, they didn't anticipate 8K would become something that the professionals would be looking for right away, and they thought that they maybe still had a year or two before they needed to bring in a camera that would be like, for example, an R1 or 1DX model that would actually have 8K. So they thought that the R3, which I believe would have been the R1, would suffice for at least a couple more years. And another thing that gives me a hint towards that is they talk about how the 1DX is extremely reliable. And for them to say that, I really don't think they're talking about the R3, because they've even mentioned in the past the R3 is going to have, that rugged design and be extremely reliable and weather sealed like the 1DX. So by them saying that, it kind of makes me think that they're talking about how the R5 isn't that reliable, or at least when it comes to its 8K features. I think that that may be what they're kind of more hinting towards, that we don't have a camera at this point in time that will do 8K at the level we want it to do and be as reliable as we want it to be. But that's just me speculating, and I could be completely wrong, and this has been the plan all along, but that's kind of how I see it playing out right now. Now, the last part of this interview that really interested me was when they talked about the APS-C cameras coming to the RF mount. They basically said no comment, but the way they said it makes you think, okay, there's definitely going to be some APS-C cameras coming to the RF mount, because they not only said they couldn't comment, but they went on to say they know that the APS-C sensor size is very popular, especially for people who wanted the smaller body size and people who want the extra reach for sports and wildlife photography. And if you're a fan of an APS-C camera and have been looking forward to an RF APS-C camera, then I think you're probably in luck, and hopefully it will happen sooner rather than later. But those are just my thoughts on the interview, and it is a long interview. I will link it down below so you can kind of get more information out of it for yourself. But what are your thoughts about what we talked about today? And do you think my theory about the R3 originally being the R1 is absolutely insane? Do you think that the R3 has been the plan all along? Drop in the comment section below and let me know. And if you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And until next time, peace.